And we back. Now today's video, we're going to be grading every NBA team's offseason. So the draft, free agency, all that stuff. So it should be a lot of fun. I'm going to say right up front, these are all my opinions. You may agree or disagree, but I will tell you why I have your favorite team and whatever tier I decide to put them on. But something that is very important to me that you need to listen to at this point in this video, because I do not want to see any comments about this or it will drive me crazy. Just because I have a team in the A tier doesn't mean that I believe that team is about to go out and contend. Perfect example of this, the Memphis Grizzlies, right? The Memphis Grizzlies drafted well with Ja Morant and then Summer League MVP Brandon Clark. But we know that their team is not about to be good, but I'm about to give them a good offseason grade because they drafted well. Understood? So your team may still be in contention. Your team may be good, but I may put them on a lower tier because they didn't win free agency. They didn't win in the draft. That's super important. All right, fellas. So again, these are all my opinions. So you may agree or disagree, which is completely fine. Let me know in the comment section below. So we got our 5 different tiers. We have the A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier, and F tier. For the sake of spacing, I'd put A minus, A plus, yada yada. You get what I'm saying? So I'm gonna grade each team's offseason based on what their plan is. All right? Just because a team didn't go from trash to a contender doesn't mean they had a bad offseason, all right? But again, this is my reminder to leave a like on the video. It always helps the channel grow, and right now we're a little over 500,000 subscribers. We're trying to get to the big meal. It may take some time, but we got nothing but time. So I want to start from the back end because the Utah Jazz had a very, very good offseason, and I'm putting them in the A tier. They traded for a borderline all-star like Mike Conley. They bring in Bogdanovich, who carried the offensive load once Victor Oladipo went down and helped the Indiana Pacers team stay a playoff team. Big W's for them. Unfortunately, the West also got a lot tougher where the Clippers and the Lakers got better, and then the Houston Rockets made a trade to get better. So even though they had this amazing offseason, they still not the favorite to win it all. But do not sleep, all right? That's all I'm saying. Next, we have the Warriors. Their situation is very different than a lot of teams because majority of us knew that Kevin Durant was leaving that situation. So I'm not giving them negative points for Kevin Durant leaving because we all knew that. But we can give them positive points because they got something in return. And of course, that something is an all-star. In a situation where they could have had Kevin Durant walk for nothing, they end up with an all-star. So I'm sorry, that offseason is a huge W. It's a huge W. Legitimately, Kevin Durant could have left and their team could have just been Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond, but instead they bring in a young all-star player, D'Angelo Russell. Next, we have the Spurs. Now, I'm not sure how to really gauge the Spurs. They didn't do anything significant. They bring back Rudy Gay, tried to get Marcus Morris, and to get Marcus Morris, they traded some pieces away that I really liked, and then Marcus Morris said, you know what, no, I'm going to New York. So for that reason, I'm going to put the Spurs at a C offseason just because they didn't do anything really to make themselves better. They're really banking on DeJounte Murray coming back and being healthy, but that's not an offseason move because he was already on the roster. Why are the Utah Jazz here twice? Why are the Spurs here? Why are the Utah Jazz here 3 times? I got to find a new list. I'll be back. Okay, so we back and we actually got... I don't know how I didn't notice that before I picked the list. But next we have the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks did what a lot of good rebuilding teams should do. They drafted, they made trades and got pieces that they wanted. And they also brought in a lot of expiring contracts like Solomon Hill to just take up that money and get some picks in return, which is a W if you ask me. So I think their offseason was about a B tier. Definitely about a B tier. The Boston Celtics. I don't really know how to gauge theirs because they lost Kyrie and Al Horford, and they replaced it with Kemba Walker and then Enes Kanter. So they lost their star players for 1 star and a very decent starter. So for that reason, I'm putting them in the B tier. I think it's great for them, though, because y'all know the whole Kyrie situation with his teammates. It wasn't the best situation, and now they kind of hit a mini reset on that when it comes to team chemistry. Brooklyn Nets, do I need to explain it? I should have an S tier because the Brooklyn Nets will be a team in the S tier. They brought in 2 stars. I just talked about how Kyrie Irving was a bad thing for chemistry, but now you got to worry about that because he's playing with the people he wants to play with. He's playing with his homies. You know? Pause. But I work with my friends. I work with my best friends on our podcast, and it's the best time of my life. So now Kyrie Irving gets to play with his best friends and DeAndre Jordan and Kevin Durant once he's back from his injury. Brooklyn Nets, It would be an S. You know what? I'm adding the S tier. Be back. S tier, Brooklyn Nets. Come on, man. Charlotte Hornets. Charlotte Hornets may be the only team that I ever give an F. All right. I don't want to be that strong about it. They gave Terry Rozier their contract in the technical sign and trade with Kemba Walker, whatever. Well, actually, I don't think it was it a sign and trade. Regardless, Terry Rozier got a big contract. And the Charlotte Hornets are notorious for giving out huge contracts to players that are unproven. And Terry Rozier is very, very unproven. He had a great run in 2018 NBA playoffs. And then in 2019 came around, he was trash. They gave him that big contract. They drafted PJ Washington, who I don't know anything about because he didn't play in Summer League. Bulls. I'm going to put the Bulls in the B tier. The Bulls were a team last year that had no leadership whatsoever. All the things that happened last year where they were upset with the coach, they called the NBA committee about Jim Boyler having them run suicides. All of that's going to be over because we actually have leaders now. We brought in Thaddeus Young, who was the captain of the Indiana Pacers team. Little did you know, the captain don't always have to be the best player. It's about the best teammate. And Tobias Harris was the captain of that team. And we brought him in, and not to mention he is a very good player, too. He's a pretty good player. I don't want to throw a very on it. Then we drafted well. Kobe White and Daniel Gafford played well in Summer League. I think we had him beat offseason, which is dope. The Cavaliers. It's an interesting situation because everybody loves Darius Garland, but again, I haven't seen much of him. Other than that, that was the only thing they did, which is smart for a team like them, is they don't have any money, and they don't have trades to make. I'm putting them in a C tier. They didn't make many moves, similar to like the Spurs. Not a bad thing. Not necessarily a bad thing. Not very good either. Then the Mavericks. The Mavericks were this close to having Goran Dragic in the trade, but y'all remember how that went down with the Miami Heat. So that got scrapped. I don't know how to gauge their offseason. They brought Kristaps in for a max contract, which if you ask me is pretty good because there was a small possibility that next year he wasn't going to be on the team. Not the 2019 season, but the 2020-2021 season. He could have been somewhere else, but they got him under contract. The real question is, how healthy will he be? So for that thing, I'm going to put him in the C tier as well. They also brought in DeLon Wright, which is pretty decent, but nothing too significant. Then we have the Denver Nuggets. They didn't have many things to do. They were already a very, very good team, right? But they made a trade to pick up Jeremy Grant too. You know what they could use? Wing defenders that can knock down shots, and Jeremy Grant does that. I'm putting him in the B tier. Good offseason, Denver. Good offseason. You also gave a max to your guy Jamal Murray, who had a good season, but he's got to show me more for the amount of money he's starting to make. Detroit Pistons. So Detroit is in a tough situation because they don't have money, right? Blake Griffin has like one of the biggest contracts in the league. Andre Drummond is under a very good contract, a very big contract. Then you also got guys like Reggie Jackson. So they didn't really have much money to make moves. But what did they do? They end up signing Derrick Rose, which is good. They drafted Sekou, who I believe is going to be pretty good. I like their offseason. They also traded for Tony Snell. I got a few people on their team that I'm going to root for. All that being said, I think they had like a C. I like their offseason. A C is not bad. People be taking C's as bad. Let me tell you something. Somebody with a college degree, just one, and it's one of them. C's get degrees. If I told you my GPA from college, you would understand that. So C is good. Houston Rockets, I'm putting them right up there in the B tier. I think their offseason is very good. Of course, they brought in Russell Westbrook, which is honestly making me probably want to move them up to an A tier. They brought in a top 10, top 12 player in the NBA when they already had a top 10, top 12 player in the NBA. Then we have the Indiana Pacers, who lost Bogdanovich but replaced him with players like TJ Warren, who they got for literally nothing. And they also brought in Malcolm Brogdon on a pretty hefty deal. I like their offseason a bunch. I'm putting it about a B tier. Clippers, S tier. Need no explaining. You know why they got the S tier. Lakers, S tier. Need no explain. This is interesting. I'm going to throw them in the A tier. I do believe that the Lakers are a team that is going to be competing for a championship 100%. They got Anthony Davis, which makes it an A tier, but they didn't get that third star. And because of that, they missed out on a lot of very good free agents. Their team is very good still, but of course you would have liked to see them pick up some different guys than what they have now. I'm putting it in the A tier. Remember, S tier is literally like the best of the best, all right? The Memphis Grizzlies, I talked about them earlier. I think they had a B tier offseason, drafted well, re-signed some guys who fit the culture, W's. Miami Heat, for a team that was capped out, I think they had a very good offseason. They bring in Jimmy Butler, who can be their star player. I mean, he's the replacement for Dwayne Wade, the heir to Dwayne Wade's throne. They homies and all, so I don't know what the conversations are on that. But they brought in a star player to a team that is already pretty good. They did make the playoffs this year, but we know them as a team that's no slouch. But now they actually have a go-to guy like that. I mean, not to mention he's one of the best closers in the league last year. The Milwaukee Bucks, I'm putting them in the B tier as well. They had so many players that were up for a contract. Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez, Nico Mirotic, who went to play overseas again, Malcolm Brogdon. So they had to make decisions, and the decisions they made were bringing back Chris Middleton, bringing back Brook Lopez, bringing in Robin Lopez, and bringing in Wesley Matthews, who I think is a very underrated signing. The Timberwolves. The Timberwolves turned Dario Saric into a top 10 pick. But other than that, they didn't do much. They lost Derrick Rose. I'm putting them in the C tier. New Orleans Pelicans. They lost Anthony Davis, but everything else they did was perfect. They drafted Zion. The players they got back for Anthony Davis are going to fit. They bring in J.J. Redick for the shooting. They pick up Derek Favors. Do I want to put him A tier or do I want to put him in the B tier? I got to come back to that one. Then we have the Knicks. Now, the Knicks for the first week of free agency were like the laughing stock of the league because they had these ambitions of superstar players and they landed none of them. They literally landed none of them. But they brought in some guys like Julius Randle, pretty good. And then the guys that they did sign, and you're like, why did they sign him? They signed him for a 1+1, which means that next year they may not be on the roster. They kept themselves completely flexible. So as much as a lot of people probably have them in the F tier, I'm putting them in the D tier. It wasn't absolutely terrible. It just wasn't ideal. Then we have the OKC Thunder. And you have to think about this. Again, it's about the cards that they were dealt. Paul George wanted out, so they traded them. I'm not going to fault them for trading Paul George because he didn't give them any options. But they got amazing things in return for him and for Russell Westbrook. So for that reason, I'm putting them in the B tier. They're hard reset, hard rebuild. They're probably going to win not many games, but there's a possibility that they win a decent amount if they keep Chris Paul. But they have, 9 picks over the next couple years because of all the picks they got back for Russell Westbrook and Paul George. That's a W. Even if you don't draft those picks, what is a saying on this channel? You get assets. You know the rest. The Orlando Magic, they brought back their entire roster and they bring in Al-Farouq Aminu. I'm putting that at about a C. Still good enough for them to make the playoffs. The Philadelphia 76ers is an interesting one because they lose Jimmy Butler. But to replace Jimmy Butler, they bring in Al Horford. They bring in Josh Richardson. They re-signed Tobias Harris to a contract, if you ask me, is pretty big for a player that's never been an all-star. He's got to show me something this year. But they lost their closer. And my real question for them is who's going to step up and be their closer? Will it be Joel? I don't know, because we rarely get big men as closers in the NBA. Even when we think about Jokic, who's one of the best centers in the league, a lot of the big-time shots that were hit for them were by Jamal Murray. You know what I'm saying? So who's going to be their closer? Is it going to be Tobias? Are they giving it to Ben Simmons, who's not a jump shooter? I don't know how they're going to figure it out, but I'm sure they will. They did have a very good offseason. Hey, Phoenix Suns. They drafted Cam Johnson after trading TJ Warren. I'm not explaining to you. They did not have a good offseason. Ricky Rubio got a pretty big contract. I haven't seen Cam Johnson, but my boy Kobe White's reaction to this guy getting picked means all. I mean, some people had Cam Johnson projected to the 30th pick. Some people had him at 22, and you took him at 11. Made some bad trades. Not a fan. Not a huge fan. Portland Trail Blazers. So, again, they had the hand they were dealt. They lose Mo Harkless. They lose Al-Farouq Aminu. But they bring in Hassan Whiteside for their depth because, I mean, Yusuf Nurkic is going to be out for a minute. Just thinking about the injury makes me cringe. And then they bring in Ken Bazemore. Solid NBA player. I like that. So I'm putting them at about a C tier. Sacramento Kings, I'm also throwing in the C tier. They made some signings here and there, but I don't think any of them ultimately going to help them get over that hump. They were the 9th seed last year, and so many teams got better that I'm afraid that they're going to fall back down, and that scares me a bit. The Toronto Raptors, C tier. They lose Kawhi Leonard. There's nothing they can really do about that, but they didn't have the money to make any significant moves to replace him, so they brought in guys that they can maybe help develop into players that they thought they could be. For example, Stanley Johnson, he was drafted top 10, and now they have him to maybe help him develop into that potential. Or guys like Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, who showed glimpses that he could be good, but now he's in a situation in Toronto that can maybe help him get there. And the Washington Wizards, they still don't have a real general manager. They have an interim general manager, but they didn't do much. They brought in Hachimura. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Re-signed Thomas Bryant, which is cool. Jeez, C tier. And then back to the Pelicans. I'm throwing them in B tier. That is my. Let me do some revising. Let me make sure I agree with everything still. Okay, so a few things have changed. I brought up the Pelicans. Just as more I think about it, the more I really like their offseason. I brought up the Dallas Mavericks and the Sacramento Kings, and I dropped the Wizards and the Raptors. So that's my complete list. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully I didn't make you too mad. I was fair. I gave you my reasons. That's it. You enjoyed it? Be sure to leave it a like. Even if you didn't enjoy it, please leave a like. I like those likes. All right? Thank y'all so much. This has been Kenny. I'll be back tomorrow. Peace.